the show for the global citizen.
You don't know how to fix the holes in our ozone layer. You don't know how to bring the salmon back up a dead stream. You don't know how to bring back an animal now extinct. And you can't bring back the forest that once grew where there is now a desert.
You have ignored us in the past and you will ignore us again. We have run out of excuses and we are running out of time.
Show us your faithfulness. Show us your trustworthiness. Show us your honesty. Prove us wrong.
Good morning, Asia, and good evening, America. Welcome to another episode of Wild DNA, the weekend edition. I'm Eric Njoka. We will begin with the latest from the Israel-Hamas war, where Israel continues deadly bombardment of Gaza, with latest attacks reported in the Nuseirat refugee camp and Khan Yunis. United Nations Security Council passes resolution to boost aid to the enclave, but humanitarian groups say anything short of demanding a ceasefire is not good enough. You have a lot coming up in the next 30 minutes, including updates on the Israeli war, politics, and the latest in sports and entertainment. So stay tuned. Let's start with the headlines. After repeated delays, United Nations Security Council finally passes resolution to boost Gaza aid delivery, stops shy of demanding ceasefire. Tensions simmer in West Asia. US releases newly declassified intelligence suggesting Iran's deep involvement in planning operations against commercial vessels in the Red Sea. Trouble mounts for Donald Trump. Media reports allege former president urged two Michigan election officials not to certify Democrat Joe Biden's victory in the state following 2020 presidential elections. The Netherlands will start preparing initial 18 F-16 fighter jets to delivery to Ukraine, announces Zelensky following telephonic conversation with Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. US media report alleges Putin's right-hand man and Russia's Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev ordered assassination of Wagner mercenary group chief Yevgeny Prigozhin. Indian embassy in France confirms being granted consular access to 303 passengers on board Nicaragua-bound flight grounded over suspected human trafficking. And Luis Suarez, reunited with good friend Lionel Messi, the Uruguayan forward, becomes the fourth former Barcelona player to sign for Inter Miami. Our top focus on Wild DNA this Saturday. United Nations Security Council has approved the much-delayed resolution on Gaza that demands to significantly boost aid to the enclave. After days of negotiations to avoid a veto, the US chose to abstain. The watered-down resolution calls for speeding aid deliveries to desperate civilians in Gaza. However, it fell short of demanding a ceasefire. The resolution urges the creation of quote-unquote conditions for a sustainable cessation of hostilities, but did not call for an immediate end to fighting. In the 15-member Security Council, 13 backed the resolution while 2 abstained, along with the US. Russia also abstained, as it expressed disappointment with a change of language in the draft and pressed the need to support what was initially proposed by the UAE delegation. The initial draft had called for an urgent and sustainable cessation of hostilities to allow aid access. The US and Israel oppose a ceasefire, believing it will only benefit Hamas.
And let's be clear, Hamas has no interest in a lasting peace. Hamas is determined to repeat the horrors of October 7th over and over and over again. And that is why the United States supports Israel's right to protect its people from acts of terror.
After the vote, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called out Israel and said that the way it is conducting its military operation in Gaza is creating massive obstacles to the aid distribution.
The real problem is that the way Israel is conducting this offensive is creating massive obstacles to the distribution of humanitarian aid inside Gaza. An effective aid operation in Gaza requires security, staff who can work in safety, logistical capacity, and resumption of commercial activity. These four elements do not exist.
Israel says it is willing and able to exponentially increase the entry of aid trucks into Gaza. However, officials have added that the country will continue to inspect humanitarian assistance for security reasons. Hamas has meanwhile called the resolution an insufficient step for meeting Gaza's need. However, the West Bank-based Palestinian Authority has called the resolution a step in the right direction and said it would help end the aggression, as well as ensure the arrival of aid and protect the Palestinian people. And for more on this, our correspondent Suzat Teherani has sent us this report from New York.
Before the final vote on the humanitarian resolution at the Security Council here at the United Nations on Friday, Russia had proposed an amendment to the resolution demanding the suspension of all hostilities. However, the United States vetoed that amendment. Friday's resolution was put forth by the United Arab Emirates, currently the only Arab state on the 15-member council. One main sticking point was whether or not Israel will continue to monitor the aid going into Gaza, making sure that it's humanitarian in nature. After the resolution and the vote, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations thanked the United States for standing by Israel's side, but also said that Israel will indeed continue to monitor the aid going in to Gaza. The final resolution, however, also asks the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to appoint a coordinator to verify that this aid going into Gaza is indeed humanitarian in nature, but also to consult all relevant parties. Ultimately, the United States abstained from voting on this resolution. It was not clear why, but a U.S. ambassador to the UN said that she was disappointed that the Security Council continues to not condemn Hamas for its attacks against Israel. Russia, which also abstained, of course, for a different reason, said that the resolution had been watered down to America's liking, to the point where it gives Israel, quote, the green light to commit war crimes. However, Russia's ambassador to the UN said the only reason Russia did not veto this resolution was because it had the backing of Arab states. Susan Teherani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
Let's move on to another battlefront. Stepping up its tone, Washington has released newly declassified intelligence accusing Iran of deep involvement in attacks on commercial ships by Yemen's Houthi rebels. Now, the U.S. is considering tougher measures, including possible force, to counter these attacks. Iran has till date denied any involvement. The U.S. last week announced a naval coalition involving 20 countries aimed at helping safeguard vessels from attacks in the Red Sea. Some of the countries involved have said that the operations to protect commercial traffic will be a part of existing naval agreements. This as Joe Biden announced in a show of force that the U.S. aircraft carrier USS Dwight Eisenhower had entered the Gulf of Aden. The White House said that Tehran's clerical state has provided drones and missiles to the Houthis, as well as tactical intelligence. US's National Security Council spokesperson said, and I quote, "We know that Iran was deeply involved in planning the operations against commercial vessels in the Red Sea." Earlier this week, National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby also reiterated the same idea.
providing the means, the tools, the capabilities, the weapons through which the Houthis are conducting these attacks. The Houthis may be pulling the trigger, but as I've said, Iran's giving them the guns.
According to the Pentagon, the Houthis, who control vast parts of the Arabian Peninsula's poorest country, including the capital Sana'a, have launched more than 100 drone and missile attacks targeting 10 merchant ships. The White House says that the Houthis are also reliant on Iranian-provided monitoring systems at sea. Biden administration officials are increasingly concerned that the Houthis are trying to undermine global maritime trade, both to undercut trade to Israel and to raise the costs to the U.S. and its allies for supporting Israel. Yemeni insurgents persist with ship strikes that they are in solidarity with Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. The Houthis, on the other hand, have warned that they would strike U.S. warships if the Iranian-backed militia was targeted by Washington. Former U.S. President Donald Trump is making headlines again. A new U.S. media report alleges that Trump pressurized Michigan officials to toss President Joe Biden's win in the 2020 polls. The former president reportedly made a phone call to two fellow Republicans in an attempt to pressurize local officials to interfere with the 2020 presidential elections. Trump asked them not to certify the totals once voting was over. Now, according to the report, Trump's November 17, 2020 phone call involved National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel and Wayne County Elections Authorities Monica Palmer and William Hartman. The former president told them that they would look, quote-unquote, terrible if they certify the results after opposing the certification initially. The two then issued affidavits opposing the certification of the Wayne County. The following day, the two unsuccessfully tried to change their votes in favor of the certification.
Wayne County Board of Canvassers demands. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those in favor say nay, or all those opposed say nay. Nay.
Separately, on Friday, U.S. top court has denied to expedite the case regarding the former president's immunity against his efforts to overturn the 2020 polls. The request for expediting the case was first flagged by the U.S. Special Counsel Jack Smith. Earlier this week, a Colorado court ruled that Trump's interference in the 2020 presidential elections, including the Capitol riots, disqualified him from running for the 2024 presidential elections. Multiple reports established that Trump's claims over the elections being stolen were baseless, but he remained persistent and pushed to nullify the results. This has not hindered the former president's popularity in the Republican Party, as he remains the clear frontrunner of the conservatives. Let's now talk about the war in Ukraine. The Netherlands would deliver 18 F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine to help its battle against Russia's invasion and air superiority. The Dutch defense minister has sent a letter to Parliament outlining the plan to donate the sophisticated jets that were first unveiled during the summer. As per the Dutch caretaker Prime Minister Mark Rutte, and I'm quoting him, the delivery of F-16s is one of the most important elements of the agreements made on military support for Ukraine. The officials have not yet said when these jets will be delivered. However, the government has said that the move allows personnel and budget to be allocated to prepare the devices to be sent to Ukraine. F-16s have been on Ukraine's wish list for a long time because of their destructive power and global availability. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that the donation is quote-unquote a breakthrough agreement. He further added that the planes will strengthen Kiev's counteroffensive against Russian forces. According to officials, Denmark would deliver 19 jets in total. The Netherlands will send 18 jets. Meanwhile, Norway and Belgium have also announced they will give F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. However, the Belgian government has said it will provide an undisclosed number of aircraft to Ukraine, but not before 2025. The F-16 Fighting Falcon is so popular for a reason. It is right now one of the most advanced aircraft in the market. It is small, fast, agile, highly maneuverable, lightweight, and costs 15 million US dollars each. But it is seen as relatively cheap. The Netherlands sent its first US-made F-16s to a new training facility for Ukrainian pilots and staff in Romania last month. Let's talk about North Africa now. Marking an end to more than a decade-old French operations in West Africa's Sahel region, France has withdrawn its last troops in Niger. France's move comes after military junta that seized power in Niger made France's military exit as one of its key demands, echoing the sentiments of juntas in neighboring Burkina Faso and Mali. This is the third time in less than 18 months that French troops have withdrawn from the Sahel region. This region, which has been a center stage for power tussles, has witnessed 3 coups in 3 countries, all in the span of 3 years. France was forced to end its operations in colonies like Mali last year and Burkina Faso this year after military takeovers in these nations. All 3 nations in West Africa are battling Islamic insurgency that erupted in northern Mali in 2012 and then spread to Niger and Burkina Faso. Launched in 2014, the aim of France's Operation Barkhane aimed to fight Islamic insurgency in the Sahel region. Now, the headquarters of the French forces were in Chad. However, a string of coups in the region since 2020 led to a rise of anti-French sentiment among the people. French exit from Niger leaves hundreds of United States military personnel and a number of Italian and German soldiers remaining in the country. Until the coup, Niger was a key security partner of France and the United States, which used it as a base to fight groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State that have killed thousands and displaced millions across the region. Authorities have revealed that they grounded a flight bound for Nicaragua over suspected charges of human trafficking on Thursday. The flight was carrying over 300 Indian passengers who are believed to be victims of human trafficking. This happened in France. Indian embassy in France reacted to the situation, saying they have been informed by the French authorities. Indian embassy reached the site and also obtained consular access. New Delhi says it is investigating the situation while ensuring the well-being of passengers. Paris Public Prosecutor's Office say the flight was grounded after anonymous tip-off the plane had taken off from the United Arab Emirates. France's National Anti-Organized Crime Unit also began a probe. Authorities say the flight remains grounded on the tarmac at Vatry Airport following its landing. Reports also say Indian passengers might have planned to travel to Central America to attempt illegal entry into the US or Canada. In a major development coming in from Pakistan, the country's election commission has decided against letting former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party to retain the electoral symbol of a baseball bat. The party of the jailed cricketer turned politician will not be able to contest February 8th polls on the cricket bat symbol. The Election Commission of Pakistan had reserved its verdict on the matter on Tuesday. The reserved verdict was announced after the Peshawar High Court directed the electoral watchdog to decide the matter of PTI's intra-party polls and electoral symbol by yesterday, in accordance with the law. Setting a new precedent, the ECP had taken notice of the PTI's intra-party elections. Barrister Gohar Ali was easily elected as the party's new chairman after being nominated by party chief Imran Khan. The polls were held on December 3rd, days after the ECP declared null and void the intra-party polls held in June 2022, giving the PTI 20 days to hold fresh elections. India's foreign exchange reserves jumped to the highest in over 20 months. The country's healthy import cover rose further despite the rupee at near record lows against the US dollar. Foreign exchange, or forex, reserves are the total holdings of international currency for trade and debt payments. India's forex cover rose to $615.97 billion in the week ending December 15th, the highest in over 20 months. The import cover has risen for 5 weeks in a row, with a $9.1 billion rise in the latest week. While the rupee marked its biggest weekly loss over 2 months, the country's forex cover is close to a record high. In October 2021, the country's forex kitty reached an all-time high of $645 billion. What does the latest rise in forex reserves mean for India? It shows foreign investors are betting big on the country. International investors have poured money into Indian stocks and bonds in recent weeks as the country remains the fastest growing major economy in the world. More importantly, it negates the IMF's assessment of excessive intervention by the RBI in currency markets. India's hit back against IMF's claims are justified by the rise in forex cover. Last week, Leander Paes and Vijay Amritaj became the first Asians to be inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame. Paes is one Indian sport's greatest champions and the 18-time Grand Slam champion reflected on his tennis journey in a conversation with WION sports editor Digvijay Singh Dale.
Now soon you're going to be sharing space with the greatest tennis players ever. Is that what you're going to treasure, to have your name alongside Rod Laver, Tia Gibson, right down to Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras, who you played against?
100%, Diggy. I think when you look back at Wimbledon, and Mr. Laver and myself are the only two individuals to win Wimbledon in 3 decades. And that was something that was quite a fascinating stat, that when one of your colleagues mentioned that to me, I was like, wow, that's cool. Now to be inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame is a lifetime of perseverance, hard work, passion. I mean, really, my story is pioneering through a sport that no one knew how to win Grand Slams before we did. No one knew how to win an Olympic medal before I did, and really kind of growing up through the 80s in India was literally gully cricket and gully football, now to the Hall of Fame. So that story over 3 decades has been one of a lot of perseverance, one of a lot of support that I've achieved from. There are so many people who are responsible for this one. I mean, the support I've received from my parents, my dad, my mom, my coaches, my trainers, my doubles partners, mixed doubles partners, all of which are about 180 odd partners I've had over 31 years. So to every single one of them who have played their part in achieving this accolade, I bow my head in gratitude to say a big thank you to each and every one of them and their families for investing in their belief in me. And even in the hard times, especially in the hard times, when one didn't realize as to whether one was going to win a Grand Slam or not, to sit here now with 20 Grand Slam wins and being inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame is real hallowed grounds over at Newport, Rhode Island. So to Patrick McEnroe, to Kim Clijsters, to everybody behind the International Tennis Hall of Fame, thank you very much for really inspiring every child on this planet, especially in this part of the world, in Asia, to realize what the International Tennis Hall of Fame really takes to be inducted in there is something that's important. And I would like to put that on my shoulders and showcase how much hard work and how much effort it goes into getting nominated and then being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Time now for Wild DNA Entertainment. Shah Rukh Khan has had a great year so far, but his latest release, Donkey, seems to have dampened his successful run at the cinemas. The film raked in $300 million at the Indian box office. This is significantly lower than Jawan, which opened at $750 million. Donkey is the latest successful opener of Khan this year. However, the figures are still an improvement when compared to the opening of its 2018 release, Zero. Amazon Studios has dropped the first look for its upcoming film Roadhouse. The video stars actor Jake Gyllenhaal. The actor plays a former UFC fighter who takes on a job as a bouncer at a Florida roadhouse. Roadhouse is a remake of the 1989 action movie of the same name starring Patrick Swayze. It will release on March 21st next year. Beyoncé fans in Brazil were in for a treat while they were at the screening of her Renaissance concert film. The singer made a surprising appearance at the convention center in Salvador during a club Renaissance party. Her fans can be heard cheering for the Kafit singer in videos released on social media. And that's the latest on this edition of Wild DNA. My name is Eric Njoka. Thank you very much for your time and for watching. Do stay with us. This is Beyond Wild is One.
Israel woke up to a barrage of thousands of rockets fired from the Gaza Strip.
אזרחי ישראל, אנחנו במלחמה.
Hostilities have broken out between Israel and Palestine, and the tensions that had been gathering steam over the course of the last several weeks and months.
The siren has gone off. I don't know if you can hear it in the background what's going on. I'm going into the shelter now. So it's a very, very serious situation here across Israel. It's a state of emergency.
The United States stands with Israel.
Well, we are starting this broadcast with a developing story from West Asia, where Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says Hamas has launched a war against the state of Israel.
It's easy to tell you a flat story. It's easy to show you what's happening around the world. We do the difficult part.
This weapon has been banned, but the US, Ukraine and Russia do not find the bombs problematic.
We also tell you why what's happening.
New drug is making a difference in the fight against Alzheimer's. This medicine helps slow down a patient's cognitive decline.
We look beyond the text. We give you context.
Is China preparing for a war in the Himalayas? And tonight, we come to you with some proof.
Hypocrisy is stunning.
Do leaders mean what they say? Do they ever say what they mean? To find out how real news affects you, your decisions.
Just when Iran took one step in the right direction, its moral police is planning to drag it further back. And once again, the victim will be women.
Watch Gravitas.
Welcome and thanks for tuning in.
We don't impose our views.
Did India threaten to ban Twitter? Either that or Jack Dorsey is lying to you.
That is Gravitas. We let life breathe through our show. Gravitas, the informed show for an intelligent audience.
Hello, welcome to This World. Vladimir Amelyan joins us from Kiev, and he is currently on the front line fighting Russian troops.
We believe that the world should be ruled by democracies.
I was interviewing you on television a couple of weeks back.
That's right.
And you said, if you really want to understand Jerusalem, why don't you come here and see it?
And you came.
Here I am. Mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting. Why this cannot be fixed?
There are 425 million guns in the United States, which is more than the population.
The problem here is Trump has been able to make the argument that this is a political prosecution and that he's being singled out unfairly.
Defend our nation. You are saying we could have a cure for cancer.
We'll have treatments for many cancers in this decade, and they're going to come from India.
Downside is that it could potentially wipe us out. But let's start with the upside first.
The upsides are absolutely enormous. The potential uses of this are almost unlimited.
I only discovered AutoGPTs about a week ago and started writing about them. And after I started writing about them, Jeff Bezos followed me on Twitter and all kinds of crazy amounts of people have been contacting us.
The show where we get you the week's biggest stories from around this world. What is the India story? It's the story of the world's biggest democracy.
We are developing the road infrastructure. In the end of 24, it will be equivalent to the road infrastructure of USA.
We have now entered the growth phase. And I believe that the growth rate in India is going to be exponential.
Two narratives of Indian story which need to be brought center stage.
Every week, the India story will bring the most incisive analysis, the most authoritative voices.
India will be a significant pole in the universe of AI going forward.
India is walking tall, India's stature is different, India's voice is being heard.
And the biggest newsmakers.
This is just a start. Tokyo, we won one bronze. Paris, we won a rocket. Good to see that, women cricket is getting more excited.
Welcome back. You're watching WION World is One with me, Aditi Singh. Let's get you all the top stories we are tracking at this hour. First, let's get you the headlines. US media report alleges Putin's right-hand man and Russia's Security Council Secretary Nikolai Patrushev ordered assassination of Wagner mercenary group chief Yevgeny Prigozhin. French police questioned two unidentified men after officials grounded Nicaragua-bound plane carrying more than 300 Indian passengers over suspected human trafficking. After repeated delays, UN Security Council finally passes resolution to boost Gaza aid delivery, stops shy of demanding ceasefire. Tensions simmer in West Asia. US releases newly declassified intelligence suggesting Iran's deep involvement in planning operations against commercial vessels in the Red Sea. Netherlands will start preparing initial 18 F-16 jets for delivery to Ukraine, announces Zelensky following telephonic conversation with Dutch Prime Minister. Luis Suarez is reunited with good friend Lionel Messi. The forward becomes the fourth former Barcelona player to sign for Inter Miami. We begin with our top story at this moment. US media reports indicate that the airplane bombing assassination of Russian mercenary leader Yevgeny Prigozhin was orchestrated by Nikolai Patrushev. Now, Patrushev is a top Putin confidant and Moscow Security Council secretary. In August, Yevgeny Prigozhin, along with other top Wagner commanders, were killed after his plane exploded. And reports say that Patrushev became alarmed over Prigozhin gaining influence that outsized Kremlin's via his Wagner forces Ukraine battlefield role. Now, who is Patrushev? The 72-year-old Patrushev is Russia's second most powerful man. He's the former head of the FSB security service, who now serves as the secretary of Russia's Security Council and is considered one of the most influential hardliners among Putin's close advisors. He has worked with Putin ever since the latter became the president, and the two have known each other since they started working together in the Soviet KGB, which is an intelligence agency. In Leningrad, now St. Petersburg, the duo is believed to be associated since the 1970s. And as per the US media report, Patrushev was alarmed by the top Russian military brass open criticism by Wagner's boss and was concerned that probably he gained a lot of power. Patrushev had taken the decision to punish Prigozhin after the mutiny, and the report added that Putin did not object to it. Now, after Prigozhin's death in the plane explosion, Putin in his statement had said that the Wagner chief made mistakes, and the president also speculated that the explosion was caused by grenades' poor handling by those present on board. Meanwhile, the Kremlin accuses the report of being pulp fiction. Now, in more news, French authorities are questioning two men who were held after a flight bound for Nicaragua was grounded over suspected charges of human trafficking on Thursday. The flight was carrying over 300 Indian passengers who are believed to be victims of human trafficking. The Indian embassy in France reacted to the situation, saying that they have been informed by the French authorities. The Indian embassy reached the site and have also obtained consular access. Now, New Delhi says it is investigating the situation while ensuring the well-being of the passengers. And Paris Public Prosecutor's Office said that the flight was grounded after anonymous tip-off and the plane had taken off from the United Arab Emirates. Now, France's National Anti-Organized Crime Unit also began the probe, and authorities say that the flight remains grounded on the tarmac at Vatry Airport following its landing. Now, reports say that Indian passengers might have planned to travel to Central America to attempt illegal entry into the United States or Canada. Now, moving on, 78 trucks have reportedly entered Gaza through Rafah crossing after the United States Security Council has voted to approve a resolution that demands to allow more aid deliveries to Gaza. 8 trucks have also been lining up at Israel's side of Kerem Shalom crossing, and Israeli officials say that over 5,400 aid trucks carrying food, water and medical supplies have entered Gaza since the start of the war, and that the country will now allow more aid to enter the enclave. And this even as ahead of the vote, Israeli military said that it is preparing to widen the operation in Gaza with an emphasis on the southern area. Over in the north, the IDF says it is gradually completing the goals.
As we get closer to the final stages of the operation being held in the north, we are still in the middle of fighting in the Dara and Tufa area with lower intensity fighting still going on. In other areas of the north, we are in full operational control.
IDF says it struck Hamas headquarters and eliminated militants in southern Gaza City in the last 24 hours. It also claims to have located a number of shafts leading to a significant underground tunnel route with the help of its K9 unit. Israel claims that this route was used as an underground base by Hamas, and it also alleged to have been used for storage, hideouts, command and control, and even movement of militants between different areas. Now, the cost of war is also increasing. Death of a 73-year-old US-Israeli hostage, Gad Hagai, has been announced by his kibbutz community. Now, Hagai was thought to be held in Gaza but was actually killed on the day of the attack, the community said, adding his body has been taken to Gaza. US President Joe Biden says that he is heartbroken by reports of his death. Now, former U.S. President Donald Trump is making headlines again. A new U.S. media report alleges that Trump pressurized Michigan officials to toss President Joe Biden's win in the 2020 polls. Now, the former president reportedly made a phone call to two fellow Republicans in an attempt to pressure local officials to interfere with the 2020 presidential elections. And Trump asked them to not certify the totals once voting was over. And according to the report, Trump's November 17, 2020 phone call involved National Committee Chairwoman Ronna McDaniel and Wayne County Elections Authorities Monica Palmer and William Hartman. Now, the former president told them that they would look quote-unquote terrible if they certified the results after opposing the certification initially. The two then issued affidavits opposing the certification of the Wayne County. Now, the following day, the two unsuccessfully tried to change their votes in favor of the certification. Listen in.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those in favor say nay, or all those opposed say nay. Nay. Nay.
Now, separately on Friday, U.S. top court has denied to expedite the case regarding the former president's immunity against his efforts to overturn the 2020 polls. And the request for expediting the case was first flagged by the U.S. Special Counsel Jack Smith. And earlier this week, a Colorado court ruled that Trump's interference in the 2020 presidential elections, including the Capitol riots, disqualified him from running for the 2024 presidential elections. Multiple reports established that Trump's claims over the elections being stolen were baseless, but he remained persistent and pushed to nullify the results. This has not hindered the former president's popularity in the Republican Party, as he remains the clear front-runner of the conservatives. In the ongoing trial of Hong Kong's pro-democracy tycoon Jimmy Lai, a local court has rejected the move to drop sedition charges against him. And Lai is the founder of now-shut Chinese tabloid Apple Daily, and he's charged with collusion with foreign forces under Beijing-imposed national security law. And in China's special administrative region, this charge carries a potential life sentence. Jimmy Lai's lawyers have argued that the sedition charge should be dismissed, claiming that the prosecution failed to file charges within the stipulated 6 months' time. However, 3 government-appointed judges have said that the time limit did not apply, as the conspiracy has been a continuing offence. And the Apple Daily founder has also been accused of conspiracy to produce seditious publications, including calling for sanctions against Hong Kong and Chinese officials. Now, this charge is a recently revived colonial-era offence. And the prosecution claims that Lai and Apple Daily published 161 seditious articles. Lai's trial finally kicked off this month after being in detention for over 1,000 days. And the United States, UK and the European Union, they've called for Jimmy Lai's release. And his trial comes as the city prepares to enact a new round of national security laws that will further tighten China's grip on media and foreign-based institutions. Director of Information Fusion Center for Indian Ocean Region, Captain Rohit Bajpai, spoke to WION's Siddhant Sibul about expanding cooperation and maritime security in the Indian Ocean region. Listen in.
If you can talk about what this body does.
Yeah, so the vision of the government of India was to set up a center to look for the maritime safety and security in the Indian Ocean region through collaborative efforts. What we realize is there is no one agency or an organization which has the resources to monitor such a vast area. So it was premised on collaboration, and that is how we set out for to have an understanding of the Indian Ocean region, fuse that information from various sources, and thereafter put out to the maritime community for the safety and security in the region.
Collaborative approach, there are officers from various countries as well. If you can talk about number of countries present, and is there any plan to invite more countries?
Absolutely, absolutely. So what we say is we have international liaison officers who are our main strength, the pillar Because presently we have 12 ILOs, both from the regional countries as well as beyond the region. And these ILOs bring with them unique perspectives because of their individual areas. And when all come together and sit on the table, then it is, when we fuse that information, then we get a better understanding of the maritime domain and the entire region as such. Presently 12 ILOs are there. We are very soon going to be joined from an ILO from Bangladesh, maybe early in January. And thereafter we have a vision of having at least 40 ILOs in this center, and we are slowly progressing towards that.
So challenges in the Indian Ocean, there are several challenges: illegal fishing, hijacking incidents. How are we tackling these issues with this organization?
Yeah. So challenges are galore. Because of the importance of the Indian Ocean region, you'll admit that with importance comes challenges. There are a host of challenges. The priority of challenges may be different for different countries. So what we at the center primarily are monitoring are 5 clusters, that is piracy and armed robbery, contraband smuggling, IUU fishing as you told, and maritime incidents. So there is a host, there are many challenges, so we club them under categories, and thereafter our ILOs, the clusters are there and the ILOs monitor that. So for example, now the main challenges for the smaller island countries is drug trafficking. So it is affecting the youth. So for countries like Seychelles and Mauritius, drug trafficking may be high on the priority. For countries, IUU fishing is a big menace that is happening in our region. And very recently you've seen the situation in the western part of the region. So that is also catching our eye. We are analyzing that information.
Well, now shifting focus to a major development coming in from Pakistan. The country's election commission has decided against letting former Prime Minister Imran Khan's party to retain the electoral symbol of bat, and the party of the jailed cricketer turned politician would not be able to contest February 8th polls on the cricket bat symbol. The Election Commission of Pakistan had reserved its verdict on the matter on Tuesday, and the reserved verdict was announced after the Peshawar High Court directed the electoral watchdog to decide the matter of PTI's intra-party polls and electoral symbol by today in accordance with the law setting a new precedence. The ECP had taken notice of PTI's intra-party elections. The barrister Gohar Ali was easily elected as the party's new chairman after being nominated by party chief Imran Khan, and the polls were held on December 3rd, days after the ECP declared as null and void the intra-party polls held in June 2022, now giving the PTI 20 days to hold fresh elections. Shifting focus to India, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a meeting of the Bharatiya Janata Party's national office bearers as they gathered to review strategies for Lok Sabha polls in 2024. And in his address, Prime Minister Modi said that the ruling party needs to now work in mission mode, and he stressed on the need to focus on a few topics before the elections, like the party needs to actively start working on social media. All officials and leaders should keep taking stock of their constituencies. He also said party officials should fight pessimism with optimism. Further, he proposed to focus on 4 categories: poor, youth, women and farmers. He also advised the party workers to go amidst the people and explain to them various government measures. The first day of the 2-day meet lasted for about 5.5 hours, and the meeting took place at BJP headquarters in New Delhi. Meanwhile, the main opposition Congress party has announced their manifesto committee, and the committee is responsible to identify the key topics that the party will fight on in the upcoming 2024 elections. The committee would be headed by former Home Minister P. Chidambaram. Senior leaders Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and Shashi Tharoor are also part of the committee. And now we take a look at the world of business. Toyota, the world's largest car maker, finds itself at the epicenter of a crisis. Its subsidiary, a government raid, a suspension of global shipments and a month-long production halt. The raid comes amid revelations that most of its vehicles weren't properly tested for collision safety. The crisis extends beyond the subsidiary company, with Toyota pledging fundamental reform in the wake of 174 irregularities identified across 64 models, including some under the Toyota brand. Now, the suspension of Daihatsu's shipment is poised to affect vehicles not only produced by Toyota, but also possibly by companies like Mazda and Subaru. Now, as Daihatsu provides manufacturing services to various automakers, the gravity of the situation raises questions not just about the company's subsidiary company, but the overall trustworthiness of the Toyota brand. The investigation centers around airbag control units, revealing discrepancies between units used during crash tests and those in cars sold to the public. Now, while the test units eventually met industry standards, side collision test results of the models like the Daihatsu Cast and Toyota Pixis may not comply with the law. And this is according to Toyota. As Daihatsu faces scrutiny, the crisis underscores a broader challenge for Toyota, already marred by a previous scandal with its unit, Hino Motors. And some major updates from the world of sports. Indian wrestling has plunged into further turmoil, and a day after Olympic medalist Sakshi Malik announced her retirement from the sport, Tokyo Olympics bronze medalist Bajrang Punia has decided to return his Padma Shri, which is India's fourth highest civilian award. The two-time Commonwealth Games gold medalist announced his decision on social media platform X, and he wrote a letter addressed to the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, where he cited the denial of justice to female wrestlers as the reason behind his move. Now, this after Sanjay Singh, an aide of former wrestling head Brij Bhushan Saran Singh, was elected president of India's wrestling body on Thursday. Bajrang, along with Malik and Vinesh Fogart, led the protests against Singh, who is a member of India's parliament, and the former WFI chief is accused of sexually harassing female wrestlers, including juniors. And the protest against Singh had been on intermittently since January in the Indian capital, New Delhi, and were only called off in June after a charge sheet was filed against Singh. Now, the matter is sub judice at the moment, and Punia hopes that the courts will deliver justice. After the results were announced, Sakshi Malik, the 2016 Rio Olympics bronze medalist, removed her shoes and put them on the dais at a crowded press conference as she announced her retirement from the sport. And in the midst of a long-drawn war, Ukrainians are pulling out all the stops to usher in Christmas. Residents of the war-ravaged nation are gearing up for the first December 25th Christmas celebration in accordance to the Western calendar, and they consider this a step towards erasing any remaining trace of Russian influence in the country that is currently under invasion. We leave you with these visuals. We'll see you on the other side. Thanks for tuning in.
Israel woke up to a barrage of thousands of rockets fired from the Gaza Strip.
Hostilities have broken out between Israel and Palestine, and the tensions that had been gathering steam over the course of the last several weeks and months.
The siren has gone off. I don't know if you can hear it in the background. what's going on. I'm going into the shelter now. So it's a very, very serious situation here across Israel. It's a state of emergency.
The United States stands with Israel.
Well, we are starting this broadcast with a developing story from West Asia, where Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant says Hamas has launched a war against the state of Israel.
It's easy to tell you a flat story. It's easy to show you what's happening around the world. We do the difficult part.
This weapon has been banned, but the US, Ukraine, and Russia do not find the bombs problematic.
We also tell you why what's happening.
New drug is making a difference in the fight against Alzheimer's. This medicine helps slow down a patient's cognitive decline.
We look beyond the text. We give you context.
Is China preparing for a war in the Himalayas? And tonight, we come to you with some proof.
Hypocrisy is stunning.
Do leaders mean what they say? Do they ever say what they mean? To find out how real news affects you, your decisions,
Just when Iran took one step in the right direction, its moral police is planning to drag it further back. And once again, the victim will be women.
watch Gravitas.
Welcome and thanks for tuning in.
We don't impose our views.
Did India threaten to ban Twitter? Either that or Jack Dorsey is lying to you.
That is Gravitas. We let life breathe through our show. Gravitas, the informed show for an intelligent audience.
Hello, welcome to This World. Vladimir Amelyan joins us from Kiev, and he is currently on the front line fighting Russian troops.
We believe that world should be ruled by democracies.
I was interviewing you on television a couple of weeks back.
That's right.
And you said, if you really want to understand Jerusalem, why don't you come here and see it?
And you came.
Here I am. Mass shooting after mass shooting after mass shooting. Why this cannot be fixed?
There are 425 million guns in the United States, which is more than the population.
The problem here is Trump has been able to make the argument that this is a political prosecution and that he's being singled out unfairly.
Defend our nation. You are saying we could have a cure for cancer.
We'll have treatments for many cancers in this decade, and they're going to come from India.
Downside is that it could potentially wipe us out. But let's start with the upside first.
The upsides are absolutely enormous. The potential uses of this are almost unlimited.
I only discovered AutoGPTs about a week ago and started writing about them. And after I started writing about them, Jeff Bezos followed me on Twitter, and all kinds of crazy amounts of people have been contacting us.
The show where we get you the week's biggest stories from around this world. What is the India story? It's the story of the world's biggest democracy.
We are developing the road infrastructure. In the end of 24, it will be equivalent to the road infrastructure of USA.
We have now entered the growth phase. And I believe that the growth rate in India is going to be exponential.
Two narratives of Indian story which need to be brought center stage.
Every week, the India story will bring the most incisive analysis, the most authoritative voices.
India will be a significant pole in the universe of AI going forward.
India is walking tall, India's stature is different, India's voice is being heard.
And the biggest newsmakers.
This is just a start. Tokyo, we won one bronze. Paris, we won a rock. It's good to see that, women cricket is getting more excited and everybody is looking up to that.
And these stories need to be told, and they are guided by the compass of their conscience.
From India, for the world, the India story. The show for the global citizen.
You don't know how to fix the holes in our ozone layer. You don't know how to bring the salmon back up a dead stream. You don't know how to bring back an animal now extinct. And you can't bring back the forest that once grew where there is now a desert.
You have ignored us in the past and you will ignore us again. We have run out of excuses and we are running out of time.
Show us your faithfulness. Show us your trustworthiness. Show us your honesty. Prove us wrong. We desperately need you to prove us wrong. God help us all if you fail to prove us wrong. God help us.
What happens in the world and its nations?
South Africa,
in Samarkand, Uzbekistan,
reporting from New York for WION.
Creates ripples across oceans.
As things appear to be quite tense, given that the protesters are just not backing down.
The federal government employees have been protesting.
So follow the news source where facts run the show. Because you are more connected than you know. Download the WION app to find out how.
Hello there. If you're just joining us, this is WION World is One. Thank you very much for joining us at this hour. My name is Eric Njoka. Let's begin with the headlines this Saturday. After repeated delays, the United Nations Security Council finally passes resolution to boost Gaza aid delivery, stops shy of demanding ceasefire. Tensions simmer in West Asia. US releases newly declassified intelligence suggesting Iran's deep involvement in planning operations against commercial vessels in the Red Sea. Trouble mounts for Donald Trump. Media reports allege former president urged two Michigan election officials not to certify Democrat Joe Biden's victory in state following 2020 presidential elections. The Netherlands will start preparing initial 18 F-16 jets for delivery to Ukraine, announces Zelensky following telephonic conversation with Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. Indian Embassy in France confirms being granted consular access to 303 passengers on board Nicaragua-bound flight grounded over suspected human trafficking. And Luis Suarez is reunited with good friend Lionel Messi. The Uruguayan forward becomes the fourth former Barcelona player to sign for Inter Miami. And welcome. Our top focus at this hour is the Israel-Hamas war. The United States Security Council has voted to approve a resolution that demands to allow more aid deliveries to Gaza. However, the much-anticipated resolution that comes after days of delay falls short of calling for a ceasefire. This is after the fighting has further intensified in the Gaza Strip in the last 24 hours. In the 15-member United Nations Security Council, 13 voted in favor of the resolution. 2 abstained, including the US, which has been negotiating the language of the draft so that it does not veto it. Israel has said it will continue to inspect the aid heading into Gaza for security reasons. On the other hand, Hamas has called the resolution insufficient at the moment. Meanwhile, the United Nations chief has alleged that the real problem hampering humanitarian efforts in Gaza is the way Israel conducts its offensive. Ahead of the vote, Israeli military said that it is preparing to widen the operation in Gaza with an emphasis on the southern area. Over in the north, the IDF says it is gradually completing the goals.